going on, sandboxers? We have a new blog post for the week, so you already know the deal. Let's just get right into it because there's a lot going on, plus some things I will be talking about at the end of this video. Tony starts this week's blog post with a new Face Punch made game on Sandbox called Mini Motors. He mentions that the Face Punch team will be making a bunch of small-scoped, polished, fun games, and the first is called Mini Motors. This game was entirely made within the last 2 weeks, which is kind of wild. And it's a top-down racer that has a bunch of maps, cars, pickups, achievements, leaderboards, and more. The reason why that they're working on these games is to create polished experiences for players, but also to provide as a learning resource in many ways to developers. The code is open sourced, and they recently created tutorials to assist with how you can use some of these features within your own games. One of the biggest ones being ghost recordings and a replay support system. Garry mentions that within the previous versions of Sandbox, they used to supply a code archive with all the games. This was a form of zip file that had the source code attached to it. They originally didn't think much of it since if you were using Lua in Garry's mod, the code would be right there and the DLLs were trivial enough to decompile. But many developers within the Sandbox community didn't like the logic and didn't like the idea that anyone's code could be available. So they fixed this issue by shipping an update last week that I've covered that compiles the source code on Face Punch's backend. This in return makes it easier that clients or players didn't have to compile the code when they first clicked on play, and games will now load faster. This also makes source code for any Sandbox games not available anymore and also should be secret now unless you decide to make your own game on Sandbox open source. Now this next one is some pretty huge news and there's quite a bit here. This relates to Sol mentioning a new update to mounts. Mounts have already been available for a while in the Sandbox mode on Sandbox, as this week they've integrated it into the platform entirely, as now you can view which games you have mounted within Sandbox itself through the main menu. You'll also be able to enable and disable game mounts through the main menu and pause menu, which is huge. They clarified that you need to own the game on Steam and have it installed for them to work and be supported. This new update also allows players to have more control over what games you're mounting and loading, as they'll be adding officially supported mounts in the future, but this also goes for showing which mounts that you've added if they're community supported, most likely as well. Adding on to mount updates is a new mount maps integration. Mounts can provide scenes as they've extended the map picker to include mount maps alongside workshop maps. In short, meaning you can play maps from other games where the mount provides them. This should work with any games that support workshop maps, and this also works in multiplayer too. But other players will need to also own the game and have it installed to join. So mentions that this is in the early days and fairly limited for the meantime, but there's a lot of great potential here, as just exploring levels from your favorite games with your friends is pretty exciting. And lastly, with mounts, Laylad mentions that the mounts on the editor side panel needed a bit of love, as there's a new search bar that shows which mounts are installed or not and will take you to the Steam page to install or buy the games for supported mounts. The unboxing scene for when you're reaching your free reward drop for playing games and earning achievements on Sandbox has been revamped once more again, as now it will show the cards with item rarities, particles to display a hint at the rarities of the items inside, and the scene looks much better now. Zix provides us with a new Movie Maker track list that features a sub-track search box and other various track creation bugs that have been also fixed. Carson has finished up the published wizard, which according to him will help everyone play by the rules, as there's a new page for the wizard that will inform you of which assets from the cloud you are using and if they're eligible for the play fund, require attribution, have no set license, and need to be used with caution or are CC0 and can be used freely. And that leads us right into the lightning round. Two new mapping tools, the inset tool and align down, have been added. The editor's launch times have been improved. A new collider.compute penetration has been added. Texture previews now show a checkerboard background to see the alpha channel and other color channels. Text render has gotten a billboard mode. Wheatley MF, which has recently joined Face Punch under Sandbox's development team and has worked on the game My Summer Cottage, has improved the shader documentation, which is huge. Congrats once again, Wheatley. GTAO optimizations have been made for the frame profiler. So Garry closes this week's blog post with talking more about about what he has planned for S&box's future. He mentions that they know the player experience currently isn't what it should be and hasn't met expectations. While the developer experience is a shining star in S&box, 99% of people don't bother to see that or get that far. Now, their plans are to keep improving the player experience and then do a sale and promotion, as they have a few different goals that they want to improve for the player experience. The first order of business is to start doing game jams again, which needs to include the player community even more. Garry feels that these game jams should be aimed at getting players into S&box with games to play and vote as much as they're aimed at developers. He also mentions that they need to completely avoid the situation that they've seen in previous jams where people reveal their game an hour before the jam ends. The second thing is to improve the S&box mode itself. While Facebook and Garry have resisted subscribing to add-ons in favor of cloud-based runtime spawnable entities, they're coming around to the idea of both of these systems coexisting, as Garry needs to sit down and spend more time developing and fleshing out the S&box mode. And lastly, after that's done, then they'll be focusing on doing a sale and some actual marketing and promotion. They feel like there's no point of doing a Rust crossover and getting a bunch of new players that would probably play the game once but instantly be turned off. So they're aiming to do this around Christmas time, as it'll give Facepunch and Garry plenty of time to polish and fix everything up that needs to be done. All right, so this one is going to be a little bit of a mixed reaction here for the closing thoughts, because I do have some slight level of concerns here. And while I do understand, as what many people that watch me, that I don't only just talk about the positive aspects, which is, by the way, this blog post has a lot of really great updates, as we'll get into my thoughts shortly. There are some things that for me personally, I feel Facepunch should possibly reconsider. The first thing is that I think it's really great that S&box is confirmed to be getting a sale and promotion, as they feel most likely this will be around Christmas time, which would be December of this year, and that they'll feel comfortable with doing this and inviting people back again. The current issue is that November is GTA 6 month, and everyone and their mother, including me, will probably be sidetracked by doing nothing else and just playing that game. Now, do I feel that S&box would increase its numbers from its sale? Possibly, and it's probably the best time, since it'll be at this point that the year is basically almost over. We'll then be technically 8 months into S&box's release, and hopefully within the game jams and other things that will get the community involved, that will get more players that are interested in what Facepunch and Garry are improving on the game. However, again, the issue that GTA 6 is going to take up more than likely the next 4 months going into 2027, and for S&box to have a sale around that time is going to be possibly a tricky slope to go through. S&box's current player count, which is a talking point amongst most of the community, obviously is not that hot right now, if I'm being completely honest. The level at which we can hopefully expect people to buy the game for $20 within the next couple of months will have to depend on either one, S&box having a hit game that attracts people to pay the $20 to play the game and stick with it, or some sort of promotional campaign or something to get maybe possibly top streamers or YouTubers to try the games and let their audiences be exposed to S&box while it's starting to get more games that would be worth playing. This is the biggest issue currently with S&box, which is trying to figure out how to gauge any sort of player interest in a new game and platform that they're not familiar with. While streamers trying S&box could help, it does come down to content, which Facepunch is gladly attempting to fix its issues and getting the community involved this time around. More than likely with a voting system for the game jams, which honestly is a really good choice. Not only that, but creating a submission system to prevent people who've been working on games longer than the actual duration for which developers should be working on, which would then again seem unfair in comparison to any of the other participants who have spent less. How Facepunch will do that really comes down to the next couple of months. These updates are a great point for us going into a direction of actually now focusing on the player experience as the forefront compared to just developers only. They could see this and at the same time focus on performance and running on different PCs, as this is the current biggest complaint about the game according to many who've tried it. So here's my theory. If Facepunch within the next 5 to 6 months not only improve player experience to the point of bringing interest back, but also getting players within the door of S&box's $20 price tag that seems steep according to some people and runs well with decent games that are worth playing, then Facepunch won't probably have to worry as much about the already existing and looming behemoth of GTA 6 that is waiting for it a month before it even goes on sale. While according to Garry, Christmas seems like the time that they're aiming for, I'm not really even sure if this is a great idea because of just the overall interest. And I do get it. It will be beneficial, but realistically, a lot of games, including S&box, are going to suffer from the same form of hit from players because of GTA 6 and has already taken up a good chunk of that time and space, most likely going into 2027. Like I said, this is just my theory, and I think that regardless, with S&box slowly getting better, the clock is ticking, and these new updates, including the massive changes with mounts being available to view not only within the pause menu, but also the main menu, and have mount maps integrated so that you can actually explore them with your friends if they're either officially supported or possibly community supported, is a great change. And I think that also with add-ons being considered to possibly return to its subscribing method or even change into this like new form of weird system that has possibly both of these options will help. But again, the storm that is GTA 6 and what it brings with is possibly going to be a problem. Let me know your thoughts down below. Subscribe for more S&box content by your boy, and stay tuned for my experiment of playing S&box games using the new Steam controller that I have right here, as I've finally gotten my hands on it, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.